Then on our,
So moved.
and yes, and then have we all looked at the requisitions?
I didn't have a problem with them.
Okay. Okay, me neither. That's it, that's anything else? All right, then we'll go on to our first agenda item, which is a public hearing to consider vacation of a portion of a right-of-way at Red Lion, 5 Points Road in Clear Creek Township. Is someone gonna make a presentation on that?
Neil and Kurt are here.
Mr. Petty's present from the engineer's office, or.
Oh,
I see
Neil
Neil
is.
now.
Okay, good.
The whole office is here.
It's a big one.
Okay, thank
Yeah, this is a project that we did last year, constructing a roundabout at the intersection of Red Line 5 Points, Line of 5 Points and Funnel Hill Road. And when we did our public involvement for this particular project, one of the things that came out was realigning of was the realigning of Red Line 5 Points at Funnel Hill Road. We had what's called a skewed intersection, and there was a house, actually it was an old schoolhouse that had been turned into a residence on this particular corner.
Do you think you could move on
Look
the
at-
other
oh,
side and point?
I'm sorry.
I can't see it all where you're pointing.
I'm sorry. Yeah.
Thank you.
Very good. So there was it was a skewed intersection, and we had a house here at the intersection that was blocking the view. So one of the requests by the township trustees was to realign this portion of the road to square it up and remove this house to improve the sight distance for traffic turning left out of Red Line 5 Points to come into this into the roundabout. So the Board of Commissioners, you as the board, agreed to that change, and we actually changed the design of this during the process, and we acquired this this parcel. It was about I can't remember, 1.1 acre parcel. 1.295 acre parcel, and we dedicated right away from that particular, well, it's not dedicated, we created an easement for this parcel. So there is a little bit of Tries now PowerPoint. Thank you. So we now have we are vacating this portion of the right-of-way on Stephanie Roeder's parcel, who she owns this lot right here. But there is a little piece of right-of-way that will still remain as with the right-of-way, or with the land that we are about to sell. There will be opening bids on that next week. There will be a little piece of land that is attached to this piece right here. So, but we did not vacate that. Well, I mean, it's actually part of the right-of-way, but this piece is attached to the acreage of this parcel right here.
I don't understand that, Neil. You're saying that we're vacating the road.
We're vacating this half of the road. We're not vacating the whole road. We're just vacating this half of it. And so there is a little.
The remainder of it is remaining as what, an easement that we've got, or is it as a roadway?
It remains as an easement. It remains as an easement that's attached. The acreage for this piece is attached to this. It's really not taxable acreage, but it is part of,
Well, when we redirected the road, did we change the easement on the other side, or is it because that was
we
our
were
property?
acquiring, we wrote an easement on the
Okay,
parcel
we
that
wrote
the
it on our
commissioners.
parcel, because we own that parcel, and now you're
Yes.
about to go out to sell it.
Correct.
Okay, all
Right.
right, now I understand. Thank you.
So that's basically it. This was probably understood by Stephanie Roeder when we did the project, that she would be acquiring that full use of that property, because that was an easement before. That was not dedicated right away. That was,
But we bought land.
we bought the parcel, again, see, how do I, here we go. Yeah, we bought this whole parcel of land right here.
Right.
But we've written written easements for the roadway project such that we've better defined what the highway easements are on this parcel.
It's just we don't need that parcel anymore. There's a property owner that can take care of it.
Correct,
And
right. Yeah, we removed the house as part of our widening or roundabout project.
students, you guys know what's going on here? I don't think I do, but, so, this is our county engineer, and we made a major modification to an intersection. You know how there's lots of new roundabouts going in? That's what's going on here at Lidle's Five Points Road, right, or Red Line, in Red Line. And we had to buy some land to realign one of the roads that comes into this. And when we bought the land, that means the old road, we didn't need it anymore. So now there's something called a vacation, where we can come in and put that piece of property up for sale to the public, and that's what we're talking
Well,
about.
actually, the vacation means that we no longer need the right-of-way for the road, so the land goes completely back to the owner of the land along that road. So we're not selling it. The land that we're selling is land that the commissioners bought a couple of years ago to do this project, to realign this portion of Red Line Five Points. And what we didn't use for the project, that's what the commissioners are selling. We'll be opening bids on that next Tuesday. Is it 3:30? 3:30. So if you're interested in buying land, or you know somebody that's interested in buying a piece of property, have them look on our website, and there's an advertisement which describes more in detail the land that we're selling. But have you all driven a roundabout? Do you know what a roundabout? You like them? They're okay, huh? A lot of us have, a lot of folks weren't crazy about them when we started building them, but after we've had quite a few, they're starting to warm up to them. And every once in a while, we get suggestions, why don't you put a roundabout at this particular intersection? And they cost a bit of money. They're definitely safer than a traffic signal, but they do acquire land and a lot more construction. Anything else?
Pat South hated them. I love them.
Yeah.
Okay,
Well, thank you.
thank you. So this is a public hearing. Does anyone else want to make any comment about the vacation of this partial roadway?
I assume the township doesn't have any objection to vacating it, Neil.
No, they were all for this project,
so- Yeah.
Okay. So again, does anyone in the public have any comments to make about this? All right, seeing none, should we move to close the public hearing? Yes.
So moved?
And yes?
Yes. And do we need to take a further action other than the resolution we already passed?
Just the resolution, Tina will read by title only today.
Okay, very good.
Have a resolution to declare the highway right-of-way easement for a portion of Red Line Five Points Road in Clear Creek Township, Warren County, Ohio, to be vacated.
So moved?
Second?
Yes. Okay, very good. All right, our next agenda item is with the director of the Warren County Soil and Water Conservation District. proclaiming, I guess,
Stormwater Awareness Week.
Stormwater Awareness Week in Warren County.
Well, my name is Molly Conley. I'm the Director of Warren County Soil and Water Conservation District. With me, I have Tessa Wagner. She is our Urban Program Specialist, and we are happy to be here for Stormwater Awareness Week. So we are going to do a quick little presentation about that, and then we thank you for entertaining a resolution in honor of Stormwater Awareness Week. So, Tessa?
All right. So this week is Ohio Stormwater Awareness Week. So it actually started on Sunday and it goes through Saturday. And stormwater is a pretty important component of the work that we do at our office. And so I just wanted to give a little bit of an overview of some of our programming and a little bit of background on some of the things that we're doing for Stormwater Awareness Week. So in our county, we have the Great Miami River Watershed and the Little Miami River Watershed. We have a municipal separate stormwater system. So that means that it's not interconnected with sanitary sewer, so it's not going to any kind of treatment center. And so it's being discharged directly into creeks, rivers, lakes within this watershed. And so it's really important that the water that's going through there is protected. And there's some things that make that a little bit difficult. And that's population growth. So there's a lot more people, a lot more potential pollutants that are going into our waterway. As simple as people not maintaining their vehicles, oil leaks getting into the waterways, household pets, not picking up after them, introducing excess nutrients into these systems. And then we also have an increase in residential and commercial development. So we're building new buildings, new houses, new roadways all of the time. And this is increasing the amount of impervious surface that we have. So water isn't able to infiltrate into the ground the way that it can in a normal natural ecosystem. And then all of this leads to resulting changes in the landscape. So we have a lot more dense, packed areas. And so it doesn't look like it did at one time. So we have to prepare and plan for these kind of changes and make sure that we are appropriately planning for flood mitigation as well as safeguarding the quality of water that's going through these systems. So some of the things that we do with our district is education and outreach programs to make sure that people understand the implications of managing stormwater, both quantity and quality. And we even have our education specialist, Melissa, showing us these pictures that goes out to classrooms and adult education events to reach all kinds of different audiences. And then there are certain laws and regulations that are in place that we have to uphold as well. So there's the municipal separate stormwater National Pollutant Discharge Elimination Permit, as well as the General Construction Permit. And we have several programs that are in place to abide by those regulations. So Cindy and Sam over there on the left are doing some work with our chemical testing with illicit discharge and detection and elimination to make sure that things aren't going through the stormwater system that shouldn't be, which should be just rainwater. And then some of the work that I do is over in the development side of things. So going out to construction sites, making sure that sediment is contained on site as it should be, so that excess sediment, nutrients, things that are being carried with it aren't entering those systems as well. And so once again, these things are most effectively conveyed when people understand the underlying reasons that we have these regulations in place, and when we have outreach programs, it helps to make that connection both with the community and on the development, planning, construction side of things as well. So for this year, we have a couple of things that we're doing in honor of the Stormwater Awareness Week. And one of those is relaunching one of the blogs that we had at one point through our urban program, which is a developer digest. So specifically targeting that engineering, development, and planning community, and making sure that they have tangible resources for implementing these kind of regulations. And then we also have a social media kind of campaign going right now where we have tips out every single day on our social media page on ways that residents in our community can implement conservation practices. And then we also have another program with our interns where they do inspections of stormwater infrastructure like detention and retention basins. And so we have letters that went out to all of those owners of those structures so that they can understand what they are and how to maintain them. And then we have a lot of ideas for moving forward with future program development and things that we can do in this community as well. Everything from water quality business partnerships with local organization and businesses to implement their own kind of conservation practices, an urban conservation lab where people can see these things in action, and then some developer lunch and learns, these urban chats that we have, and then as well as collaboration with other surrounding soil and water and stormwater conservation districts so that this can go even outside of our county lines and continue to expand that education and outreach.
Okay. Anything else? All right, well, before you leave, so our audience and anybody listening understands this. So when it rains, there's a lot of water runoff that goes into our stormwater systems. And you've seen on your streets, there's areas where the water goes and it goes down, and it does not go to a system that actually purifies the water. Like when you use water in your house, if you aren't on the normal sewer system, it goes into a septic system and that cleans the water and then discharges it. If you go into our normal sewer system, it gets cleaned in our sewer system before, in municipalities and Warren County have sewer control, and then it is discharged in the river. In this case, the stormwater runoff goes directly into the river. And so we're proclaiming this week as Stormwater Awareness Week, but what specifically can the public do, the normal individual, you mentioned tips, what can we do to help to the impact of stormwater on our quality of our rivers and our waterways?
So if you think about anything that could possibly be washed into these systems off of roadways, so again, thinking about things like pet waste, picking up after your dog or cat if you take your cat outside, and making sure that that doesn't get swept into these systems. When you're fertilizing your yards or your gardens, making sure that you're using an appropriate amount and doing it at a time where it's not just going to instantly get washed away into the rain. When you're washing your car, your vehicles, using biodegradable soaps, and also doing that away from the storm drain systems. Picking up trash, making sure that that's not getting swept into these systems, and maintaining your vehicle for oil leaks, gas spills, things like that. So there's little things that even individual members of the community can do too.
Okay, well, before you leave, we're going to present you with our proclamation, which proclaims October 16th, 2022 as Stormwater Awareness Week. And we thank you for all of the services you provide for us and the tips and the public education, including working with our businesses and our developers. One of the things that we had earlier, what's it?
And
Our
farmers.
And one of the things we did previously was we had new screening requirements because, you know, when people build homes and they have a lot that they've cleared and all of a sudden the vegetation is gone, now you have the opportunity for a lot of runoff from open soil that is not, and obviously when it has grass and vegetation, you don't have the same amount of runoff. So we have screening requirements, et cetera, all of which is to maintain our rivers and not have unnecessary runoff into them. So I thought we could come up and provide you with this proclamation and maybe have an opportunity for a picture or something like
Yeah.
that.
Do we want to go in front?
Yeah, why don't we do it in front?
Yeah.
Okay.
Thank you so much.
Like that.
Don't be shy. This is a big deal now.
All right, well, I'm going to present you with this proclamation that proclaims October 16th, 2022 as Stormwater Awareness Week. And, well, obviously, we thank you very much. You've already made the presentation, so I don't have to read this. But thank you so much for all you do.
Thank you so
Here
much.
you go. Thank you.
And look at the camera. Thank you so much. Thank you so much.
All right.
Take Kurt.
Take care. So the next presentation and, for our meeting is with the Warren County Historical Society.
The professor?
I won't take a great deal of your time this morning. I'm here to personally invite you to an event that's been a long time coming, but one that we're extremely excited about. And for the first time in this process, the Heartland Earthworks Conservancy, the Ohio World Heritage Committee, and the Ohio Historical or History Connection, as it is now known, has dealt the Warren County Historical Society in as a full player on the UNESCO World Heritage Inscription Update regarding the status of Fort Ancient, which would be an incredible opportunity for Warren County to shine internationally. I've traveled the world and I've visited many of those World Heritage sites, and what happens to the communities around and to the region is indeed incredible. On November the 4th, a fellow by the name of John Hancock, not the insurance and not that guy who signed the declaration, but the president of the World Heritage Ohio Committee and a member of the Heartland Earthworks Conservancy, asked that the museum be the place that they present for the first time the 400-page document which they presented to the UNESCO committee who visited Fort Ancient, Warren County, and Newark, the earthworks in Newark. We were very pleased to host them. They asked that we do this on Friday, November the 4th at 7 p.m. at the Armstrong Conference Center. We urge you and any member of the public who would be interested in coming to attend. I'm very excited about it. I think they were excited when they saw the collection that we had downstairs that was put together by a fellow by the name of Mr. Simonton in the 1880s of artifacts of Adena, Hopewell, and Fort Ancient cultures assembled from all over Warren County. As a matter of fact, that collection has been noted by the Smithsonian as the best in this region, second only to their own nationally, which is quite a credit to us. So, with no further ado, unless you have questions, I just have some invitations and hope to see you on November the 4th.
What time did you say it was?
It's at 7 p.m.
It's at 7 p.m., okay.
We have tours of the museum open. Bill Kennedy will be there from the Ohio Historic Society. Jared Burks is going to be talking about LIDAR, non-invasive ground-penetrating radar, which they have been running over Fort Ancient and various mounds throughout Warren County. It's a fascinating process, and I would hope that you might stop by and take a look. So thank you.
I always love listening to you and hearing what you have to say, but we have a group here, and we've got a few minutes in between our next meeting, so we always like to give you the opportunity. Why don't you give us a little bit of an overview of Fort Ancient? Why is that such a big deal? And maybe talk a little bit about the mounds that are here inside of Warren County that honestly most of our residents don't even know about.
Sure. As a matter of fact, we've lost many over the years to development and I-71 corridor and those kind of things. The World Heritage Committee's been working for about 18 years. We have representatives from all over the state of Ohio. There are World Heritage sites all over the world, and there are some here in the United States. Cahokia, Illinois is the closest to us. Ohio's earthworks at Newark, which includes the huge octagon and the battle over the Great Circle that's in the midst of a golf course, that's finally being resolved. And Fort Ancient, which of course is the largest hill fort of the period in the United States, those two sites would be included in addition to various mounds between Newark and Fort Ancient along what they would call the Hopewell Road. Now, Serpent Mound is not going to be included in this because it's of a later culture. They think it's perhaps Fort Ancient more so than Adena and Hopewell, the two earlier cultures here in the Midwest. So it's a fascinating process. What they would do literally would promote this as a tourist destination, much as they promote Stonehenge and Chaco Canyon and Machu Picchu. That's the kind of status we would merit on an international scale.
So when you talk about the mounds, tell us exactly what the mounds are.
Well, the mounds are earthworks that were put together by the Adena and the Hopewell people. They literally hauled baskets of earth up the hillsides from the valley and made Fort Ancient. And to say it's a fort is a misnomer. It was never a defensive earthwork. It was largely a ceremonial earthwork. There are solstice alignments, there are planetary alignments, there are places, yes, where there were burials, but largely this was the largest ceremonial site and a place of pilgrimage for Native Americans all over the region, not just Ohio, but people would literally come here from West Virginia and Kentucky and Indiana and even Michigan. The evidence is there because we found goods that they traded. We have found pieces of copper from Upper Michigan. We found obsidian from down in Tennessee, all through those artifacts that started to be collected actually by Harvard University when they first looked at the site back in the 1850s. So the site has been well known. The village where they actually lived was outside the current walls of the current fort, actually to the northeast. That site is now a private farm, but the World Heritage Committee is working with those people to include that in this entire process. And so by the time the Fort Ancient people arrived, they appreciated what the Adena and Hopewell had done. They added a few things of their own, but left it largely intact. And then around 79 AD, the whole thing was literally abandoned. And it sat. And so at this presentation, we've been going through the vaults at the Historical Society. We found photographs and early maps and a first edition of Mr. Moorhead's book, the first definitive book written in 1895 on Fort Ancient. So a lot of those artifacts will be on display. So that's literally, I'm very pleased because they could have done this in Newark, but they chose us. And that's why I was so pleased with this. And I certainly hope you and the public make an opportunity to stop by on the evening of November the 4th.
Well, because it ties in with our #1 industry, which is tourism.
Absolutely.
And as you said, you've traveled the world going to these sites. There's a segment of the population that just loves this stuff, and you will go anywhere because it's such a big deal to have this designation, correct?
Sure, absolutely. It's a real feather in Warren County's cap. It's a feather in Ohio's cap. And to tie these sites together, eventually they feel that they can bring in Serpent Mound, but they don't want to taint this application. UNESCO people were here from all over the world looking at the site in September. They went over the thing. They didn't want to be bothered. The only thing I was pleased with is one of the Ohio committee members made sure they shunted through the Warren County Historical Society, and I'm happy to report to you that they were very pleased with what they saw there. So we're very happy to host this, and we're very anxious about being now a player and a partner in bringing this to fruition.
This is really exciting because, you know, for the 10 years that I was in the General Assembly, we had been asking on behalf of the General Assembly for this site to be reviewed and adopted by UNESCO and designated as such. And I'm sure that Senator Wilson and Representative Lips, you know, add into that whole process once I left. And to be honest, you know, when I first was in the General Assembly, I didn't appreciate how significant of a designation this is. And as Commissioner Young points out, this is a really big deal for our community. And I think for those who have a love of history like you. So congratulations on finally getting it over the finish line. I know that it was a long, long time coming, lots of people involved in making it happen, so congratulations.
Well, I know that the official designation is still probably a couple months away, but the fact of the matter is they're going to share for the first time with the public this incredible 400-page dossier that they put together to qualify the site, and half of that dossier is on Fort Ancient, and it will be a fascinating presentation, I can assure you. So thank you for the time this morning. I much appreciate it.
Thank you very much. Thank you. Now, we don't have the committee completely here for doing the investment advisory board's not all here yet, are they?
I know I see Barney, but I don't know that Jim Spaeth is.
Is Jim
I did
Spaeth
not see
coming?
Jim Spaeth.
Do we, but I think we probably need to have Jim Spaeth here, do we not, or not?
We have a quorum now.
Okay, well then go ahead, make your presentation, Barney. Thank you.
Good morning. I really don't have anything new to report other than what I delivered to you for the quarterly report on the portfolio. We are seeing rates go up, but our portfolio yield went down because we distributed several $100,000 in real estate taxes that we've been holding at Star, Ohio, earning over 2% on, and that's more than the rest of our portfolio was earning because short rates have gone past the longer rates that we're locked in for. We're continuing to monitor liquidity. Our portfolio maturity is just a little over, average is just a little over 2 years. We are continuing to do the things we've been doing to make money for the county on our investments.
How much money do we have invested, Mr. Treasurer?
Right now, as of the end of September, $390 million and change.
So students, you all catch that? This is our treasurer, this is our clerk of courts. We have an investment advisory committee. One of our jobs, and this is kind of interesting, and this is where there's a lot of discretion and we rely on the treasurer so much. We have almost $400 million of public taxpayer money that we as a committee really help set the guidelines under which the treasurer is going to go out and invest that money. And this is public money, and honestly, you can screw it up. And the treasurer has done a really good job working with the committee of making prudent, good investment strategic decisions. Like when interest rates are high, do you do something called extending maturities? Do you want to lock in a high interest rate because they're going to pay you 3, 4, 5% instead of paying you 1%? Well, we want to eat that up. We want to lock that in. Conversely, if they're only paying you 0.5% on your money, do you want to tie that up the next 5 years? Those are the type of decisions, and that has a very, very major impact to the budget of this county. So again, when the treasurer collects this money, this is all money that's collected inside of the county, and he turns around and then distributes it to different government agencies, including your school districts. So this is, why don't you explain how that works?
Approximately 70% of the real estate taxes that are collected in the county go to school districts. There's about 10% that goes to run the county government, and then the balance goes for special levies for police and fire in various areas, as well as to various cities and townships. So it gets spread out, but the treasurer's office is the agency that collects those tax dollars. Frankly, the fact that the commissioners over a very long period of time have been careful about what they've spent the public's money for is why Warren County is one of 3 counties in the state of Ohio that have a AAA credit rating. That's objective evidence of good management applied over a long period of time. And that also is reflected in the fact that we have a $390 million reserve for whatever is needed for public funds in this county.
Yeah, as a matter of fact, since we're talking about the finances for a second, one of the chief responsibilities of our board is overseeing the financial matters with the county. We basically carve up the pie of all the taxes that are paid into the county. we carve up the pie of who gets what. Between the prosecutor's office, the judges, the sheriff's office, all of those things, we determine who gets what inside of the budget. And you all should be very proud that this board, for this calendar year, had, and this is something we talk about occasionally, but since you all are young people and this is a good time to understand, the county you live in, we actually made the decision for this calendar year to stop collecting our portion of the property taxes. Literally $25 million. We had one of our major boards that also had a significant carryover. They did the same. So there's close to $50 million of taxpayer dollars that we're not collecting inside of Warren County for this year. We call it a tax holiday. The tax is still owed, but we don't need the money right now. We're going to need it next year. But for all your parents, that we essentially did not collect our portion of the tax dollars, but yet, as the treasurer said, about 70% of their property tax bill actually goes to you all, to the school districts. So it was really a big deal, and I think it was definitely the largest tax holiday in the state's history. Some people say it's in the nation's history, where a local government simply didn't collect almost $50 million. That's just literally unheard of.
Well, and it really is a tax break. It's a one-year tax break. It's the largest tax break that we know of in Ohio history for 1 year. So, and taxes are paid in arrearage. So these are actually the taxes that are paid this year, but that are owed for 2021. And the only taxes that we could affect or impact are the taxes that we as a county collect, and that certain of the entities that have a levy in the county collect and have worked with us. And that's what we have actually not collected this year. Not like we're going to collect it in the future. We're not. We're going to continue to collect the normal tax in 2022. That's our plans. But Mr. Wright, could you explain, you've already explained, the two primary ways we earn money in this county is through our real estate tax. And as it was mentioned by our treasurer, 70% of the real estate taxes go to local school systems. They set their own, rates. They go out to have levies. We don't do that. But so 70% approximately gets paid to the schools.
It varies from district to district. There are over 90 taxing districts in the county because of the individual municipalities and the school districts and the way those overlap. The school district doesn't end at the edge of the city limits or the edge of the township limits. It's a different district. And literally in Warren County, there are places where the taxes at the school district are low enough that people in that district pay half of what folks in other districts pay, based on the fact that the local citizens in the various school districts decide how much money they're going to give to the schools, what their taxes should be to provide schools.
So the other way we make money in this county is through a sales tax. And a portion of the sales tax, so every time you go to a store, there are certain things that are exempted, but if you buy most goods, you buy an automobile or something like that, you pay a sales tax in our county. And a portion of that tax is paid back to the county. And that is collected by our treasurer. And then we have what we would call funds that are encumbered in some way, and those that are not encumbered. You want to explain that, Mr. Wright?
No, thanks.
Okay. All right.
We're getting really down in the weeds.
All right, good enough.
No.
So when you say we have a $390 million reserve, can you give it a little bit more of an explanation for what that means?
Well, that's essentially money that is in the county treasury that is composed of funds that are held for the water and sewer department, which have to be spent on those areas, and also then accumulated reserves that the county has not spent in prior years that the county commissioners are free to spend as they deem fit. So you accumulated money before we built this new jail. You accumulated money for that. It was part of that. As we paid for the jail, that portion, those funds disappeared.
We spent them on the jail.
And you spent them on the jail, but that meant, that was taxes that had been paid in the past, not, that didn't require current taxpayers to pay for them, or future taxpayers to pay for that expenditure.
Okay, good, very good, thank you so much. Anything else?
Any questions? Any other? Thank you.
Thank you, Barney. Jim, good to see you.
Really? Well, since we have students here today, any of you have any questions for us or how our county government works? This county is established not by the Ohio Constitution. Municipalities, for example, are established in the Ohio Constitution. But our county government is established by the Ohio legislature. And that makes a difference in terms of what power, sometimes called jurisdiction, that we have. So we only, as a county government, have the power to do things that have been specifically and expressly given to us by the legislature. Where the legislature is silent, we do not have the power to act. But where the legislature has provided us with authority to act, we do. So, for example, we're responsible to collect money and budget money and spend money on the county offices, like the treasurer's office, or the sheriff's department, or our courts, our prosecutor, our auditor, our recorder. We provide facilities for them. This building is something that we were responsible for. We recently built a jail. We had a budget of, I think, $58 million to build the jail. We came under budget by $5 million, but we're responsible to do that. We're responsible to make sure we have the money to fund those facility costs. We oversee in the county certain other unincorporated. We're not responsible for the incorporated parts of the county, so cities and villages, which are established under the Ohio Constitution. We don't have any authority over them, but we do have authority over unincorporated parts of the county, which are our townships. And some townships are home rule, where they get to decide certain things, like their own zoning decisions, or some are not, where we decide zoning and land use questions. So those are some of the activities that we engage in as a county commission. And we also serve various different hats and functions, some of which are executive types of functions, some are quasi-judicial types of functions, and some are legislative functions. So, and you're familiar with that from your classes in government, which is probably, are you all in some government class where you're required to attend? So you really are not here willingly, is that what you're telling me? Okay, so, but any event, you know that our federal government and our state governments have an executive branch and a judicial branch and a legislative branch. Our county government, our commission, actually can function in all three of those roles, depending upon what we're doing. So, and that's an unusual thing to have all three of those roles. So any of you have any questions about what we do or what you've heard today? Do you have to make a report back to your teachers as to what you've done? Yes? Okay, well, we also have a law in Ohio that requires that we do everything in public. That we have public meetings that are publicly noticed, that we maintain records of what we're doing that are publicly available. But then there are times when there's an exception to that. And there are very specific exceptions where the law permits us to go into what's called the executive session. Executive session is private and it's confidential. And we may only do it under certain circumstances. And some of those circumstances are when there's, for example, imminent or pending litigation. We're allowed to talk to our counsel about litigation matters such as that. We're allowed to go into executive session for certain land disposition or acquisition of real estate. We're allowed to go in for certain confidential reasons. We're allowed to go in for negotiation of our union contracts and employee matters relating to hiring and firing employees or disciplining employees. We're allowed to do all of that in private. And when we do that, which we're going to do today, we have to make a specific motion saying what we're doing and why, and then we go into executive session and we can talk about that with our counsel or with our staff in confidence. But that's unusual. We typically only do things in public because the legislature deemed it appropriate, and we all agree with this, that we have public transparency, that we hold our meetings in public, that we allow public comment and discussion and complete view, which is why you're allowed in this room today. And during the COVID period, there were some distinct problems with that because we were restricted in terms of the number of people we could have here. And then the legislature changed the rules and allowed to have public access through Zoom meetings where they actually could communicate with us once we opened it up for them. That's no longer the case. We no longer do that, but we record, our meetings can be viewed online. You can go and have access to these and watch them if you're in the public, or you can come to our meetings here and participate through public comment if you wish, and we always open it up for public comment. I'm gonna do that one more time with you if you have any questions. Otherwise, we're gonna make a motion to go into executive session.
Can I ask him my thing?
You may, well, David likes to do something else.
Just a question and answer. You did a very good summary, but for 17 years now, I've always asked this group, and most of the time we get some good answers because, you know, your teachers are going to call us, and so you are going to be graded on that. I'm just kidding. So what are the 3 branches of government? Come on, Sam. Somebody else say it. Executive, legislative, and judicial. Three branches of government. Which one are we? Who said that? Oh, yeah. You get extra credit. So yeah, we're like most elected officials are, almost every other elected official falls into one of those categories, right? You have governors, you have presidents, you have Congress people, senators. Commissioner Joan was a state rep and a state senator, which in the General Assembly, that is the legislature. They pass laws. And then you have the judicial, judge such and such, that you don't want to go before them, right? You want to stay away from the judges. So, and that's what clerk of courts here, he kind of helps run their operations, right?
That's right. We're gonna take these guys back and talk to about that sort of thing as well. But and the clerk of courts is kind of unique. Very quickly before we head out of here, is that we do get our budget from the general fund for running the courts. But I have a separate division. It's called the Certificate of Title Division. That is a self-funded operation, and it gets all of its money generated from the sales of titles, and it's not a burden on the general fund. So I thought I'd throw that out there.
Perfect. So yeah,
And it happens to be budget time, so it's a nice reminder for us.
I was
We'll
gonna
take
tell
that
him,
to
I'll
be
be
charged
calling
with
you. I'll be calling you about that certificate of title fund.
Yeah, I know you will.
Thank you.
Well, yeah, so this is our county auditor, Matt Nolan. Matt, would you like to tell the audience that still remains what you do? And I take it these are students that are shadowing you today?
These are the auditor students. I was hoping you were going to tell me what we do, but no. So we work closely with the county commissioners. They're really the CEOs of the county. They run the county. We're more the CFO of the county. We make sure all the money comes in, goes out appropriately. And Treasurer Wright, who was just in here, works side by side, really intertwined with the treasurer's office to do that under the direction of the commissioners. And that's kind of the role of the county auditor.
Well, the auditor, you see, there's real estate throughout the county. The entire county has real estate that's owned by somebody. And for the vast majority of that, the property pays a real estate tax, which is paid twice a year. The auditor has the function of keeping a record of everybody that's got property and who owns what, and assessing a value on that property. Because, as you heard already today, there are taxes that are levied on the property, most of which is your schools, and then some of which is from the county itself or from other entities that can have a real estate tax. And the auditor has an extremely important role to play in that tax system. And there's something that's kind of complicated called millage, which you probably either have never heard of, or even if you have, you might not understand it. And it's even difficult for some of us in county government to understand what millage is. But basically what millage relates to is that for the value of your property, every $1,000 for 1 mill is taxed at $1. So when you have a millage rate, say in Mason, and I don't know where you're all from, whether you're from Lebanon or Mason or...
They're all Lebanon, yeah.
They're all Lebanon? Okay. So it's typical, we mentioned that the schools have 70%. Well, let's take an average millage rate for a school, maybe 50 mills, all right? And so to calculate how much the schools get, you take that millage rate and you multiply it dealing with what is the actual assessed value. But the auditor goes out and he appraises all the property in the county, and he gives a true market value. But that's not what's taxed. What's taxed is 35% of the true market value, which is called the assessed value. And then you multiply that by the millage rate and divide it by 1,000, and that's your tax. Did I get that right?
That's 100% right. They now know more than 90% of the taxpayers of Warren County, so that's.
There you go. So you can go home and tell your parents that you now understand how to calculate their tax bill with millage, and people don't completely understand it. But when we gave, you heard before, the largest county tax break in the history of Ohio, it was about $47 million, and that came out to what? About $150 per $100,000 of actual assessed value. Was that about right?
That's exactly right.
Right, okay.
Thanks.
Thank you so
Matt.
much.
Everybody up. Are you guys talking more about what commissioners do, or are you doing something different?
Well, you know, David, you're
We've
not finished yet, are
already
you?
been talking about it.
We've used all our words today.
I know Martin hasn't met his word quota yet.
They had me after this.
Okay, well, does our staff have any comments that you'd like to make to the students here?
No, actually, after, when you go into executive session, I'll work with the students. They do have a paper that they have to complete to take back to their teachers, so I'll usually meet with them, help them answer the questions that are on there, and then give them a tour.
Well, while we're here, and you're here, I
I
want you to
actually missed the
introduce each one of the people on the dais here. And of course, the commissioners are Shannon Jones, who's walking up.
use the restroom.
That's okay, and we do permit that. And Dave Young, who's the longest standing commissioner here with us, he's been a commissioner since 2005, got elected in 2004. Then there's me, who's the second one, and then you've got Shannon Jones, who used to be a state rep and a state senator, who's now a commissioner as well. But in addition to that, we have an assistant county administrator and a county administrator, which are,
I've already introduced myself to Martin Russell, and then I'll see you here in a few moments as well.
And I'm Tiffany Zindell.
right? Then we have a clerk,
I'm
and
Tina Osborne.
she takes and keeps our notes and keeps us track with our minutes and provides us with our resolutions and our agendas. And then
I'm Crystal Powell, I'm a deputy clerk.
And then we have our lawyer, and this is, so the county also has a prosecutor's office. And you might think of the prosecutor as somebody who prosecutes crimes, but that's not really all the prosecutor's office does. We have an elected prosecutor whose name is David Fornshell, but he has both a civil division within the prosecutor's office and they have a criminal division. The criminal division are the people that you never want to get to know and prosecute crimes unless you're a victim of a crime, which they're very helpful to you. But they also have a civil division, and Mr. McGarry is a civil lawyer. He's the head of the civil division for the prosecutor's office, and he happens to be our lead counsel, coming to our meetings, representing us and providing us with advice. Anything that you'd like to say, Bruce?
I'd like to say that I get to give a grade to the county commissioners today on their evaluation or their explanation to you about what they do, and they get an A today.
Which
So
means,
hopefully when you go back, you'll get an A for attending and participating today.
right, so that's sort of how, and from our standpoint, our county has, as you know, the majority of what the public sees in our county is run by other county offices, like the sheriff, the prosecutor, the auditor, the treasurer, the recorder, the coroner, so that's a county office as well. Those types of offices really, and the engineer, which you also were introduced to, is responsible for our roads and our intersections and our, so those people do the foundational work in this county. Not us, but we have several hundred employees that actually work for the county commission, and we're responsible for hiring and dealing with them as well. So that's pretty much how your county functions. But each of you, like you live in Lebanon, or in the Lebanon school system, and Lebanon has its own government, a city council, its own manager. It's not there's a strong mayor system, which actually does run the executive part of a city government. That is not the case I don't believe in any of the cities in Warren County. They're all weak mayors where they're actually run by city managers. And our managers at the end of the table do an awful lot of the nuts and bolts of administering this county. And we sort of, as the commission, set the policy and standards and do the resolutions. All right, any other questions? Otherwise, we're gonna have a motion to go into executive session.
I'll make a motion to go into executive session for union negotiations.
Pursuant to 121-22G4.
That's what I meant to say.
Is that sufficient?
Second.
Mr. McGarry?
Yes.
Do I do
All right.
a roll call?
Yes.
Council.
Mr. Grossman?
Yes?
Mrs. Jones?
Yes?
Mr. Young?
Yes.
And will there be anything afterwards?
No.
Okay, very good. Thank you so much today.
Good luck.
I'm gonna do